Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and this is hopefully going to be quite a cool video. For this video I'm going to be going through the best movie from every single subgenre of horror. So for me, one of the most impressive things about the horror genre is just how many subgenres there are. It really takes you in some very different directions, and there's some great subgenres and subgenres and just some really interesting pockets that you can find yourself in the world of horror. So yeah, I'm going to go through all the various subgenres and let you know which film, in my opinion, is the best one from that area. So I have got I think it's a total of 23 subgenres, which is pretty impressive. And I know people sort of scoff at the horror genre quite a bit, but I challenge someone to find 23 subgenres within another genre. So the categories that I'm going to go for and put them in order alphabetically. So we've got aliens slash UFOs, animals, killer animals, anthologies, body horror, cannibal films, comedy horror, demons, extreme horror, found footage, giallo, home invasion, monster movies, paranormal films, people horror, rape revenge, religious horror, sci-fi horror, shark movies, shockumentaries, slasher, vampires, werewolves, and zombies. So real mix. There probably is more subgenres than that, to be honest. It depends how far you want to go, but I thought that was a pretty healthy list. So yeah, I'll go through each one and I'll let you know which movie I think is the best one to represent all those different areas. So the first one, aliens and UFOs. Cool category. I like a lot of movies in this category, whether it's the more well done stuff or the more sort of silly B movie things, things like Alien Factor or Contamination, that kind of thing. I initially my first thought was Alien or Aliens, but think about it, there is another Alien film that I actually like more, and it's my second favorite horror film of all time. So my pick for the best alien slash UFO film is The Thing, which I'm sure needs no introduction. John Carpenter's masterclass of alien terror. Could have fallen into a couple of other categories, to be honest, but I thought this was a good one for the best alien slash UFO horror film. Like I say, everyone knows this film. I won't go into it too much, but I think it's the best because it has a fantastic story that John Carpenter remade from the 50s movie. Probably the best practical special effects you'll ever see. Great setting, great characters, and yeah, the great use of the alien creature, how it imitates people, and you don't know who's who. So that is my choice. Next up is Killer Animals, which had to be Jaws. You know it's my favourite film anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of movies that I really like in this subgenre. To be honest, you can put 99% of killer animal movies on, and I will happily sit there and watch them and really enjoy them. So things like Grizzly, Piranha, Ants, Lake Placid, Alligator. I talk about these kind of movies a lot. Any of them are awesome movies. This is one of my personal favourite subgenres, but I've got to go with Jaws anyway, just because of how well it's made and how influential it was to that particular area of cinema anyway. So yeah, Jaws. I won't talk about that one too much. So that's the animal one, the killer animals. Next up is anthologies. Again, really cool subgenre. Lots of movies that I could have gone for. Things like Cat's Eye from Stephen King. I know Creepshow's a favourite. I'm not too fussed to Creep. I like Creepshow 2. And of course the old Amicus anthologies, which is what I've actually gone for this one. And it's Asylum, which is yeah, my favourite of these Amicus anthologies, and pretty much my favourite anthology film. I just love this one. It was one of the first films I saw of this kind, and I really remember as a kid that first scene where you see Robert Powell walking up to the asylum, and it's that big sort of gothic English building. It's got the dramatic music, and I just thought, wow, what horrors lie within this asylum. And great story of Robert Powell having to find out which patient used to be the doctor, and they've all got some cool weird stories. So any of these Amicus anthologies, you can't go wrong with them. Asylum just happens to be my favourite, but I do generally like anthology films anyway. It's like, even if there's a section that you don't really like, you're never too far away from the next one. So yeah, a lot of films I could have gone for with that one. Okay, next up is body horror, another cool subgenre. Get some good special effects in this subgenre, but I have gone for The Fly, David Cronenberg's masterpiece here, with Jeff Goldblum experimenting with teleportation and accidentally simulating himself with a fly, and as we all know, he turns into the gruesome Brundlefly monster. But this is another excellent film, excellent special effects, which I say is pretty much an essential when it comes to body horror, and great story as well. You really do feel for Jeff Goldblum's character, and also Gina Davis, who kind of gets involved with him and has to helplessly watch this horrifying transformation. And the Brundlefly creature is really cool. I know it's like totally tragic, but there's one cool creature that comes out at the end. So yeah, The Fly is definitely my favourite pick for body horror. Okay, this is fun. I'm liking this. So the next one is cannibal movies, and so I have to go straight to the Italian cannibal genre. It's not for everyone. One of the more dirtier, grungier, controversial subgenres, but I do enjoy them, I must say. And my favourite Italian cannibal film is actually kind of one of the alternative ones. You've got sort of like Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox are the heavy hitters of this genre. You could go more modern with things like Green Inferno and that kind of thing. But my favourite is the Italian cannibal film Eaten Alive from Umberto Lenzi does this one, who did Cannibal Ferox. And this one's always been my favourite. I like this one probably more than all the others. I like Eaten Alive because it incorporates a bit of an interesting story into this one, and I think they're inspired by the Jim Jones story, where he was that cult leader, and he got everyone to drink Kool-Aid, and they all died, unfortunately. But in this, you've got Ivan Rassimov, who plays a cult leader in the Amazon jungle, and all these people are under his spell, including this woman, and her sister is traveling to the jungle to try and find her. So there's all that to deal with, plus the flesh-eating cannibals. So you get the usual Italian cannibal tropes in this one. Some pretty nasty gore and some extreme violence, some animal cruelty, unfortunately. Some beautiful shots of the jungle and things like that, and like I say, a pretty decent story to back this one up, which is cool. And it's always good to see Ivan Rassimov in these kind of movies. So yeah, I do really enjoy Eaten Alive. This is my go-to one in terms of this genre, but of course you can't go wrong with Cannibal Ferox or Cannibal Holocaust. I'm sure that will be other people's number one choice. Next up is comedy horror, and there's a couple that my mind originally went to. Shaun of the Dead is, of course, a popular one. Cockneys vs. Zombies. There's quite a few good British ones of late. Ghostbreakers, of course, with Bob Hope from 1940. Highly recommend that film. One of the funniest movies you'll see. And it's from 1940, which is crazy. But I think my go-to horror comedy, this always makes me laugh, is Idle Hands. From, I think it's 1999, and yeah, I absolutely love this. It has that late 90s feel, which I absolutely love, and it kind of taps into sort of that late 90s American Pie culture, but it's kind of a horror film at the same time. So you've got like this possessed hand going around killing people, and Devon Sawa and his friends have to try and deal with it, and it's just crazy and zany and always makes me laugh. And there's a few places in this which just have me crying with laughter. It's such a fun film. I highly recommend Idle Hands, especially if you like your 90s stuff. It's a really, really funny film. So that's my recommendation for that one. The next subgenre is demons, and for this one, quite simply, I've gone for Demons, which is one of my favourite films. Could have gone for Demons 1 or 2, to be honest. They're pretty much on par. But what I love about Demons is they are just completely take your brain out and sit back and enjoy the insane demon, crazy, gory chaos that goes on within this cinema. So these guests get the free ticket to go to a cinema called the Metropole, and they're watching a horror film, and someone ends up getting cut on a mask in the lobby, and it turns them into a fanged, drooling demon who starts biting and tearing into people and infecting the whole cinema. It makes little to no sense, to be honest. There's not really that much of a plot, but it works in the film's favour. Randomly towards the end, there's a helicopter that falls through the roof. It's just crazy, and it's got a heavy metal soundtrack, which is just excellent. So I see that Demons gets more and more love over the years, which is a really good thing. But if you've not seen Demons and you want some just crazy, mindless 80s horror, you've got to get on this one. It's absolutely fantastic. I love Demons. So that's that one. The next category is extreme horror, which is a difficult category. It's a category that's hard to recommend anyway, because I never want to put someone onto anything that upsets them, and none of the movies in this category are ones that I would really watch, you know, for sort of pleasure or to relax to. But there's a few that I go to, so I don't really count the shockumentary stuff in this one. So the three I'd go for is either sort of Martyrs, Salo, or a Serbian film. My choice out of those three, and it is a controversial one, is a Serbian film. Like I say, none of these are particularly enjoyable. I've gone for this one because I think it's got the sort of extreme storyline, which I won't go into. It's pretty horrific. It's got some pretty good kills and gore and shocking set pieces. But it's also made really well. It's a very glossy film. It actually looks really nice for what it is, which you don't always get in the world of extreme horror. But it's a remarkably well put together film, and acted really well and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I was, although I was sort of horrified by the content of this one, I was impressed as to how well it was put together. Martyrs probably left me feeling a bit more depressed, if you will, which probably makes that the better extreme film. But yeah, Serbian film. If I had to watch any of those three now, I would reluctantly put this one on. We'll say that. So that's extreme horror. Next up is found footage, which was another difficult one because I really do love my found footage films. I know they're not for everyone. And there's some really good found footage movies out there. I watched that many, I probably forgot some of them. But sort of like Lake Mungo, I watched that recently, and that was absolutely fantastic. Of course, you've got that Blair Witch. As Above, So Below was a great one. Even things like Cannibal Holocaust, you could count that one. But the one I'm going to go for, and could have gone in the anthology section, to be honest, but I'm going to go for VHS. Because I really love these movies. I think I've got 4 of them. There might be 5 of these now. I think they've done a new one. But these are really good, very entertaining found footage anthology films. I particularly like the first one where these people break into this house and it's all derelict, and they find this collection of weird tapes and start playing them, and there's just weird things on them. And it's all sort of ghosts and things like that. And there's a witch one in this. But they're all really cool, really quite realistic, quite intense, and again, because it's an anthology, if you don't like where one's going, you soon move on to the other one. But VHS 2, that was awesome as well. I really like VHS Viral with the skateboarding kids and the Templar zombies. They were awesome. There's really cool modern found footage films. I highly recommend them. But yeah, it is a great subgenre anyway. But yeah, that's the one that I'm going for, although I'm sure I'm forgetting a handful of really good found footage movies. Next up is Giallo, which is probably my least favourite subgenre in horror. there's more that I don't like than what there is like when it comes to these, and a lot of them tend to they struggle to hold my interest, and I switch off quite quickly. But there's one film that immediately came to mind, which is an absolutely fantastic film, one of my favourites, and that is Tenebrae, which has to be the best, if not one of the best Giallo films. One of the best Dario Argento films. It's absolutely fantastic. There's an author who is going around, I think it's Rome, promoting his murder mystery book, and people start getting killed in the same fashion as his book. And of course, it's a Giallo film, so it's like a black leather glove killer. Some absolutely fantastic kills in this one, and the camera work in Tenebrae is some of the best camera work you'll ever see in cinema. I think I mentioned it before, but the scene where the camera pans up and around and then in and through the house is just amazing. I don't know how they did that. And you've got the awesome Goblin score with this one as well. So yeah, if it's a Giallo film, Tenebrae all day long. Really cool movie. Okay, next up is Home Invasion, another interesting one. So there's a couple of films that came to mind. Fight for Your Life was one from the 70s, which was a Video Nasty. I was going to include Video Nasty, but a few of them appear anyway. But anyway, for Home Invasion, I am going to go for Don't Breathe, because when I watched this, I thought this was a really well put together film. Very, very tense. The tension never lets up on this one, which was one of the most impressive things about it. It held my attention all the way through, and just didn't know what was going to happen next. Stephen Lang was fantastic as the blind veteran guy who his house gets invaded, robbed by these three sort of teenagers, but little do they know he's got some military skills and tactics which kind of turn them into the hunted. Then there's a bit more of a twist anyway. But yeah, Don't Breathe is a really good, really well put together, tense home invasion movie. Don't Breathe 2 I thought was okay, but nowhere near as good as Don't Breathe. I remember being very impressed with that when I watched it. So yeah, highly recommended home invasion movie. Next up is monster movies, which is probably the hardest subgenre for me. It's my favourite subgenre of horror. I can pretty much watch any monster movie right now. I pretty much love them all. There's so many that I could have gone for. Night Beast comes to mind. I love Night Beast. Island of the Fishmen, Humanoid from the Deep, that kind of thing. But the one I've gone for, one of the ultimate monster movies in my opinion, is The Deadly Spawn. I've always loved this movie since I was a kid. This is just how I think all awesome B-movie monster movies should be. So a really cool looking creature, this giant sort of slimy tadpole thing with teeth upon teeth. It gets lots and lots of screen time. Great practical effects. I know it looks a bit rubbery, but kind of adds to it for me. Quite a bit of gore in The Deadly Spawn as well. Monster movies don't always have the gore, but The Deadly Spawn definitely does. There's lots of blood spraying around everywhere. People getting their faces pulled off. Cool kid character in this who likes horror films. So yeah, a bit of common interest there. Pretty good soundtrack. The acting's not great, but it is actually a really well put together film. I know it definitely shows its budgetary constraints, but they did a good job with this, putting it together. And I think you can definitely feel the love when they made this. I think they were definitely passionate about putting it together. So yeah, Deadly Spawn is an awesome B-movie monster film. I highly recommend it. Okay, next up is Paranormal. So yeah, again, lots of great movies that I could have picked for this one. I've gone for something a bit more modern and probably something that not everyone would agree with, but I really like this film series, and I think it's very effective in this area. So I have gone for Paranormal Activity. I was very impressed with this. I wasn't expecting anything when I first watched it. I thought the concept sounded actually quite boring. Just a static camera set up in a room, but I gotta say the movie terrified me. I was not prepared for how scared I would be from this. And yeah, at times I was like, my God, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. So props to it. I don't mind admitting this one did get me and still scares me now. And I can have fun watching any of them in the series. And often I'll get my friend round who likes horror films and we'll watch something like this because it's just fun to sit there and be scared and jump at everything that's going on. But yeah, I really like Paranormal Activity. I know it's not for everyone, but yeah, I do really like them. I feel there was other classic films I feel I should have gone for in this area. The Haunting came to mind. Legend of Hell House, which was an amazing haunted house paranormal type movie. I easily could have chose that one, but yeah, I don't know. I homed in on this one. So Paranormal Activity for the paranormal genre. Right, next up is people horror, which is probably the scariest subgenre for me, which is just no monsters or creatures or anything like that, just creepy people doing creepy things. So there's a few movies I could have gone for here. The Wicker Man came to mind very quickly, but the one I've gone for, because it sticks in my head quite a lot, is The Strangers. Which I'm sure most people know this one, but yeah, these creepy masked people just suddenly knock on the door in the middle of the night and terrify this couple and sort of torture him and stuff for apparently no reason, which is just terrifying. I mean, a knock on the door is scary enough, really, but when it's someone like this at the door, oof. So yeah, people horror. I find people horror very unsettling. It's not my go-to subgenre, I must admit, but some very effective films. Okay, next up is Rape Revenge, and there's only one film that I would have gone for, and that is, of course, the original I Spit on Your Grave with Camilla Keaton, taking revenge on the hillbilly hicks that did all those terrible things to her. I really love this film. I think it's fantastic. I know it got a lot of controversy over the years. One of the main video nasties here in the UK, but I do think it's really good. I think it's a really great film as well. It's done really well. Camilla Keaton was excellent in it. The deaths in it are pretty effective, and yeah, you're rooting for a character throughout the whole movie, and yeah, pretty iconic video nasty. So yeah, had to go with I Spit on Your Grave. It's one that I've not seen for years and years, but I actually really like to return to that one. Next up, okay, is religious horror. And again, there's only really one film that I could have gone for, which is, of course, The Exorcist. One of the greatest movies ever made, ever, anyway. I don't need to go into this one, but yeah, this one was the one that immediately came to mind, and it was pretty easy to pick. I think the only other one was either The Omen or Omen 2 or Exorcist 3. All of those movies are pretty excellent, but I don't think I could have not gone for The Exorcist. So yes, that is religious horror. Next up is sci-fi horror. So for this one, it was my chance to go for one of the Alien movies, and I picked Alien. So it's always a difficult task to pick between Alien and Aliens, but for this category, I picked the first one because I think it utilizes the space setting and the spaceship. I think it utilizes that a bit more. Aliens is a bit more of a gung-ho action film that takes place on the planet, whereas this one is more on the spaceship, and you sort of feel the isolation of space. I think that's used really well in this film. In fact, I love the opening credits where it's just like that wind sound and darkness. Really, really scary. So yeah, another one of the best horror films ever made. But yeah, great sci-fi movie as well. So that is my pick there. Next one is shark films. So killer shark movies. Again, this was an easy one. When we think of killer shark films, you know there's only one film that we ever think of, and of course that is Sharknado. So that's that one. Next up is, okay, shockumentary. Right, another very niche subgenre here. Not one that I don't talk about them very often, and I don't recommend them. But there is one shockumentary that I do have quite a bit of respect for, and is probably more accessible than some of the other ones, and it is the original Faces of Death. which is, I guess if you're going to watch any of them, this one just has more of a presentable style. You've got sort of, what is it, Dr. Francis Gross taking you on this journey of death, and of course he shows you all these horrible things, but it gives you a bit of context. You know, it holds your hand through it and lets you know what's going on. A lot of the ones that I've seen recently are literally just clip shows of horrible things happening. But this one just had a bit more of a presenter style, you know, and of course we know now a lot of it was fake, but it's still pretty effective. I'm actually thinking of doing a review of this anyway, so I won't say too much now, but yeah, if you're going to watch any of them, maybe try this one, but it's certainly not for everyone. But yeah, that's my recommendation for the shockumentaries. Okay, next up is Slasher, which is one of the hardest ones, and I've gone for quite a personal pick, which I am pretty sure not many people will agree on, but it's just the one that I love. There's a lot of heavy hitters in this genre, so of course you've got Halloween, Halloween 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street. I nearly picked that one for its creative storyline. My Bloody Valentine, even things like The Mutilator. I love those kind of movies. But I'm going to go for one of my favourite, Friday the 13th, Part 6. I absolutely love this movie. Friday the 13th is my favourite franchise, and I love Part 6. It's one of the most enjoyable movies in the franchise, one of the best slashers. And I'm picking this one as well because this kind of encapsulates everything that slashers should be. So you've got an awesome killer. Jason's in this. He's got his hockey mask. He's pretty much zombie Jason by Part 6. He gets one of the best introductions to a film ever, where he comes out the grave. This one's a bit more, it's got some light-hearted moments, and I think slashers should have an element of fun, that kind of thing. It's got some cool kills in, some good characters. You've got the Tommy Jarvis character in this. The sheriff's pretty cool. And yeah, I always just, out of that franchise, I always kind of home in on Part 6 the most, because I find it the most entertaining. And in terms of slasher, this is probably would be my go-to one because I have so much fun with it. I know most people would probably go Halloween, probably. But yeah, this one just suits me a bit better. So that's that one. Next up is vampire movies. So some absolutely amazing films in this subgenre. When you stop and look at these subgenres, honestly, there's so many great films. This one for me was quite easy because this is like in my top 3 favourite movies, and it's Fright Night, which I've absolutely loved since I was a kid. I cannot get enough of Fright Night. One of my, as I say, favourite movies of all time. There were times when I was growing up when I would watch this every single night, and I could, happily put it on now. I love everything about it. Jerry Dandridge was such a cool vampire. Charlie was a great character. The music in Fright Night is some of the best music in cinema ever. There's some great effects in it. You've got the cool vampire effects. You've even got like a bit of a werewolf thing going on and a couple of monster things. And it's got like that little sort of knowing horror aspect as well, where the character's a horror fan. I think it was made, definitely made for horror fans. Amazing film. I absolutely love Fright Night. That's my number 1 vampire film. Werewolf movies. Now this was an interesting one because werewolf films, I don't necessarily look at them and think there's a ton of great movies there, but there actually is. There's some really good werewolf films. So like The Howling, Ginger Snaps, Bad Moon is a really underrated film. But I have gone for the classic American Werewolf in London, because it's such a good film. It's so iconic, and that transformation scene is still the best werewolf transformation scene ever. So it's like, how could you not go for American Werewolf? And it's funny as well, which is really cool. And the werewolf looks awesome. So yeah, there was others that really could have been picked for this. I would have liked to have gone for Bad Moon, because I do love that one. But yeah, I can't. I felt too bad leaving American Werewolf off. And then the last one is zombie movies, and again, man, there was 2 or 3 that were really pushing for the number 1 spot. So there was There's Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. That I almost went for Day of the Dead. But for me, again, I have to go for me personally. I will go for Zombie or Zombie Flesh Eaters, which for me is just such an amazingly awesome, well done zombie film. One of my favourite films. I've said before, I saw this when I was a kid and it just blew me away. It changed the landscape of horror for me, did Zombie Flesh Eaters. And probably not as good a film as like Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead in terms of technical filmmaking, but for me the zombies in this are like the best zombies you'll ever see in a film ever. And they had like no money to make anything, yet they made these incredible looking zombies. I think they literally used like clay and mud to do them up, and it just looks amazing. Plus you've got the fantastic gore, an amazing soundtrack as well. If you ever want to hear a soundtrack that just embodies a shuffling zombie, the soundtrack to Zombie Flesh Eaters is the one to check out. So yeah, this is personally my favourite zombie film. So that's 23 different subgenres of horror and what I think are the best movies of each one. Let me know what you think of that, guys. Let me know if you agree with any or which ones you pick. If you want to do a video and do your own, that'd be really cool to see. Feel free. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting to explore that a bit more and yeah, cover some of the different areas. So yeah, like I say, let me know what you think. So thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more videos.